Hello friends, welcome back to the James Lawrence Allcott channel. I hope you guys are doing well. I'm struggling with my voice a little bit, but it's not going to stop me because we need to talk about Erling Haaland and the situation he finds himself in, or he is putting himself in, or regardless of that. I've got a problem with Erling Haaland's situation. I've got a problem with the media circus around him, and that's what we're going to dive into in this video. We're going to highlight some angles and questions both on the pitch and off the pitch when it comes to Erling Haaland, a player who is surrounded by a media circus, by media hype, and is someone who's maybe not helping himself out a little bit at the moment. Lots to unpack in this video. Before we get into it, hit the subscribe button and hit the like button as well. Can we get 5,000 likes on this video? We're going to be looking at some different angles here, so if by the end of the video you've enjoyed it, consider hitting the like button and subscribing to the channel as well. Let's dive into that idea that Erling Haaland doesn't actually benefit Borussia Dortmund. And I know people are going to get angry in the comments, and everything that I'm talking about, I think there's a pinch of salt that can be taken, but also you can pick holes in what I'm talking about as well. And feel free to do so in the comments. I was listening to a podcast, it's called The Transfer Show with Duncan Castles, and I don't know exactly who the journalist is, but on two separate occasions, he has spoken about how Dortmund are quite happy for Erling Haaland to leave. This idea that Dortmund, who will be selling Erling Haaland to the highest bidder, are quite happy to sell him because of the overall output of Borussia Dortmund as a team and the focus that Erling Haaland seems to take within it. Of course, this is a player that they bought for pretty cheap, under 30 million, and are now going to be able to sell him for quite possibly well over 100 million, which is incredible. As are his numbers when it comes to scoring goals. 21 goals this season, 13 goals last season. But for the team as a whole, are they better with Erling Haaland in the team, or are they better without him? That's what's quite interesting when you do look at the numbers. First of all, with Haaland and without Haaland, because the point of this is that if you're going to fight for a player like Erling Haaland, and there's going to be this kind of media hype, there should be this idea that he takes the team to another level, like you see with a Messi or a Ronaldo. Maybe you're not seeing it with Mbappe at this moment in time because of the fact that it's PSG and they dominate the league quite often, although they're having struggles themselves. But Haaland, for him to be as impressive as he has been, and again, what I would caveat everything that I'm saying here, and the point of this video is that this is a 20-year-old guy, you know? So we kind of need to cut him a bit of slack. But what I'm trying to do here is break through this kind of, not mirage, but it feels like it's the hyperbole I'm trying to break through. So let's have a look at Borussia Dortmund's form with Haaland and without him. And the big thing, and I won't dive into the numbers too much, is that there isn't a huge difference, really. 2019-2020, the expected goals per game were 1.864, and in this season it's 1.91. The last two seasons without Haaland, 1.915 and 1.911. So don't get into that too much, to the minutiae of it. But the point to make here is that they haven't gone to this mad different level with Erling Haaland in the team as a collective. Individually, he's hit the ground running. He's been fantastic for them. But for the team as a whole, has he taken them to the next level? Because the other thing to say about Borussia Dortmund is that this is a team that actually it's been the creators that have always been very important. The strikers that have been there over the years have all scored goals. And that's highlighted by Paco Alcácer. If you compare the numbers between Erling Haaland and Paco Alcácer over the two seasons that he was there and the two seasons that Haaland has been here as well, in terms of goals per 90, it's again really, really close. And actually, Paco's total output, 1.159, is above Erling Haaland's. Again, I don't want to brush over these facts that 37 games, 34 goals are outrageous. They are completely outrageous. But the creators are important in all of this. And for the entirety of the team, again, I expect that little bit of difference between Haaland helping the team as much as any other striker that's there, because we are talking about him the way that we are. The final thing to focus on is defensive actions per 90, because this is another area where Erling Haaland struggles. Again, this guy's 20 years old. He might be able to sort all this out for himself and be retrained to be a person who works a lot harder for the team. But at the moment, alongside the players of his ilk when it comes to goal scoring, Aguero, Lewandowski, Harry Kane, Erling Haaland, Ibrahimovic and Suarez, he's down there with Ibrahimovic, who's well old, and Suarez, who's well old. And you wouldn't expect that from a 20-year-old. To have 10 pressures per 90, could it be a stylistic thing? Quite possibly. I think it is, to be honest. You've seen that in the Champions League this season, that his the idea is that he's on the last man and they're looking to get him in as much as possible. But his defensive output hasn't been that impressive. And if you look at the heat maps of one of their suitors, strikers already, Gabriel Jesus for Man City, look at the heat map and the work that he puts in. Now let's have a look at Erling Haaland's. There is a risk on the pitch. And what is being suggested, that Dortmund are okay with him leaving, there is an element of truth in that. Because if you can get the creativity right and use that money that Dortmund will need to reinforce that area of the pitch, actually, the strikers can do enough. Onto the psychological aspect of all of this, which is really what I want to dive into, to be honest. I thought I needed to show you some numbers just to kind of explore that idea that maybe he's not as good as we're all going crazy about. This media circus, and in particular, Mino Raiola. Mino Raiola, when you think of AC Milan and Donnarumma and the trouble that he caused for both AC Milan and the player himself, if you look at Paul Pogba and the press, the bad press and the bad situations that came from that man's mouth, you can see it happening again with Erling Haaland. Maybe there's a psychology in Erling Haaland that will allow him to shut all of that out. But that in itself is what I want to dive into. And it's a dangerous game that Mino Raiola, his father, and Erling Haaland himself, who is an adult, are walking into by shopping themselves round during an international break and going to these different countries and going, do you want me? Do you want me? Do you want me? The problem with that is that if Erling Haaland is comfortable with it, and there are this likeness to Ibrahimovic, to Ronaldo, his idol, and so he may be very, very comfortable with this kind of media circus around him. But athletic performance and focus and arrogance and confidence and pressure and stress and mood are all elements that can be distracted and affected by the media and their output, okay? And that's what I want to dive into next, because it's a dangerous game to go around the continent and court this kind of media attention. Because as much as they will build you up whilst it's working out, as soon as it goes wrong, and let's remember that there will be dips in form for a player who is gone well beyond his XG, and look, his conversion rate is off the scale. He's in incredible form. But it's a long career and there are highs and lows. And again, the pressure on him psychologically concerns me. The confidence of a striker is obviously huge, and absolutely huge. But the difference between confidence and arrogance cannot be understated in the situation for Erling Haaland, because you can see the narrative progress. This summer will be huge, okay? But he has to hit the ground running. He has to make the team play better, whatever team he lands on. And if he goes to Man City, of course, he probably will score 20 goals and be able to kind of ride this wave for a very long time. But sooner or later, that confidence could drift into arrogance. If that confidence is based on internal factors and the mastery of his craft, which is scoring goals, then that's fine. But once again, I feel like Mino Raiola, and when you look at the problems that Paul Pogba has had at times with his form, the same with Donnarumma, but in particular, I know a lot more about Paul Pogba and his situation as a Premier League fan. The detriment of the media on both the confidence and the arrogance of a player, but also the players that you have around you to keep you grounded. The importance of staying grounded. I worry about that when it comes to Mino Raiola, because you've got a guy who loves to be confident and bordering on that line of arrogance at times, which is fine. But if you've got the people around you that aren't keeping you grounded, it feels like there's a huge pressure on his dad to keep him down, because Mino Raiola is dragging him into the stratosphere. And once that happens, your standards drop. The idea of arrogance means it's going to be false to the reality that you're actually existing in. And in elite sport, you have to be on it constantly, okay? There's going to be this idea that you have an idea that you don't have to behave like other people because you're different to other people. You're going to constantly attribute success to yourselves, and you're rarely going to listen to other people. And that's going to lead to problems when you've got a manager telling you what to do all the time, or a captain, or 11 other players, or 25 other people in the squad. It could lead to a breakdown with your teammates. It could be detrimental to the overall performance of yourself and of the team as well. It's a massive problem. And again, I just see the start of this road that Haaland seems to be going right now. I look at Timo Werner and the confidence, or the lack thereof, that he is struggling with, and I do feel like the media hype around him has been detrimental. And so I wanted to dive into that. And I found this fantastic article. In fact, it was sent to me by Jake Hopkinson of Perception Psychology. So thank you, Jake, for that. And it really highlighted some of the detrimental effects of media attention and what, again, Haaland needs to learn to cope with if he's going to keep the company that he is keeping. In this article submitted by Carl Ott, there's a cracking bit from Theodore Roosevelt, which I could read at the end of it. But the whole idea of all of this and the purpose of the paper, as you can see here in the Sport Journal, I'll put a link to it in the description, is to initiate an examination of the influence of media as a distraction. And what it goes on to talk about is the idea of arousal and anxiety, arousal and stress, mood, and how the media's influence on athletic performance comes from affecting all of those different elements. Because if, in terms of cognitive anxiety and somatic anxiety, so physiologically your heartbeat going up, you're feeling tense, and secondly the mental energy that you've got to deal with when you're getting negative press or just too much press, both of those affect arousal, affect stress, affect mood, and therefore affect your performance on the pitch. And this is what Haaland will need to be careful of in the coming years and months. This is highlighted by a study by Greenleaf in 2001, who interviewed Olympians from the Atlanta and Nagano Olympic Games. And he said that although positive factors can come from the media, the Olympians cited many negative factors influence performance. One such factor noted was media distractions. It was found that factors such as media distraction are psychological in nature and thus demonstrating the importance that mental factors play in elite sport. And this is something that Erling Haaland is going to have to deal with. And he's not superhuman. He really isn't superhuman. What the paper goes on to explain is that media distraction can affect or not affect any sportsman. And it highlights examples of both. From the negative side of it, if you look at someone like Mike Tyson, who had that grounding in Custamato, his coach, who passed away, and then from that point on the media were able to infect his psyche and affect his performance. And the same goes for someone like Ricky Williams, who was an NFL player who struggled with shyness and therefore struggled with the media intrusion and went towards marijuana to look to calm himself down from that anxiety, and of course failed drug tests from that, and his performances dropped as well. You've then got the other side of it and the use of application theory, the use of positive vibes, and that's the thing that Erling Haaland will need to find a way to utilise, and so far he's done brilliantly. He really has, but he will have to continue to do that. And at the top of this paper, I just think it's so great, this quote from Theodore Roosevelt: "It is not the critic who counts, nor the man who points out how the strong man stumbles or where the doer of deeds could have done them better. The credit belongs to the man who is actually in the arena," Erling Haaland in this case, "whose face is marred by dust and sweat and blood, who strives valiantly, who errs and comes up short again and again because there is no effort without error and shortcomings, who knows the great devotion, who spends himself in a worthy cause, who at best knows in the end of the high achievement of triumph, and who at worst, if he fails while daring greatly, knows his place shall never be with those timid and cold souls who know neither victory or defeat." That's Theodore Roosevelt. And the point that it makes, and the examples that they utilise here, is Venus Williams and Serena Williams, and how they were able to build a monument with, and this is another quote that's at the end of this, the conclusion is that you have to use that media distraction to inspire you, to look to prove the doubters wrong. Michael Jordan was fantastic at this, and Venus and Serena Williams were absolutely incredible at this as well, using it as motivation, as inspiration to go and excel and to dare to dream, right, with what you've got to do, and not to be a wallflower, something that's very difficult. A lot of people do the opposite of that and try and stay away from it, but not Erling Haaland so far. My concerns remain that he's putting himself in harm's way, where he's going to have to talk about things that he doesn't want to talk about. And will he be able to shut it out, or at the very least build a monument from it? Which is the quote that I do want to read out as well, from American poet Arthur Guiterman, I think it is. "The stones that critics hurl with harsh intent, a man may use to build a monument. As evidenced above, we suggest that a champion can use those stones as momentum to win. Research into the specific mechanisms of how media influence athletic performance are warranted." So the media does play a part. And as I've said a couple of times, I think he's playing with fire by being involved with Mino Raiola and what he's going to bring. Because all that matters, and you know, talk about people throwing stones. I'm somewhat doing that myself. I'm highlighting the fact that maybe he's not superhuman, and maybe it could all burn down. And I hope that doesn't happen, because you know, he does look superhuman a lot of the time when you're watching him play. But the fact remains is that whilst he's attached with Mino Raiola, there will be a media circus, and if there's a media circus, they will be like wolves, like hyenas, ready to go. And so the quality that you need and the output that you need as he gets older, it isn't a young starlet anymore, is a grown man who's expected to deliver for himself and the team. That pressure will be huge. And will he be able to cope with it? Quite possibly. But I think it's interesting, and I think it's coming. Those are my thoughts on it. That's my problem with it. Basically, get yourself a new agent, Erling, and everything's sorted. Don't worry about it. Those are my thoughts on it. Let me know what you think, though, guys. Like I said, this is always just an exploration into what these players might be going on in their minds, and it's not all about just scoring goals or not scoring goals. Let's look a little bit deeper. That's what this channel looks to do. If you've enjoyed this video, then hit the subscribe button. At the very least, hit the like button, because my throat is killing me right now, and now I've got sunshine on my face. I'm gonna go and have one of these. So yeah, hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, and I'll see you next time.